I stopped reminding them after the second year. The first time, it felt like a mistake. People forget dates. Life gets messy. My son turned 5, and we had cake in the living room, just the two of us, while I kept checking my phone. Messages came in late that night, short, apologetic, casual. I accepted them too quickly. The second year I sent reminders a week in advance. A group message, clear, polite. My mother replied with a thumbs up. My sister said she'd try to swing by. No one came. That time the excuses arrived earlier, almost rehearsed. Traffic, work, a headache. My son asked once, "Are they still coming?" And I said, "Maybe later," even though I already knew. By the third year I stopped explaining it to him altogether. We made our own rituals. Pancakes in the morning. A movie he chose. A small gift I saved up for. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't what it was supposed to be. The fourth year, I didn't tell anyone the date at all. They didn't notice. 4 days later, my phone lit up with a message from my mother. Bright, energetic, full of exclamation points. $300-400 for the cabin weekend. Everyone's chipping in. There was a breakdown attached. Names listed, shares assigned. Mine included, as if it had always been understood I would participate. I read it twice, not because it was complicated, but because it was simple in a way that clarified everything. There was no mention of my son, no acknowledgement of anything missed. Just logistics. I sent $2. In the note field, I wrote, "Wrong guest list." I didn't wait for a reply. I didn't argue. I just opened the accounts, the shared card they used for group expenses. Locked. The vacation fund we'd all contributed to over the years, my portion withdrawn. Automatic payments, paused. I went through each connection carefully, not rushing, not hesitating. It felt less like cutting something off and more like closing doors that should have been closed a long time ago. The responses came in fragments. At first, confusion. Then irritation. Then something sharper, like offense. My sister sent a message asking if there had been a mistake. My mother followed with a longer one, about timing, about how this wasn't the moment for complications. No one asked why. By the next day, the tone changed again. Words like unfair started appearing. Then irresponsible. Someone mentioned commitments. I didn't respond. 2 days later, the bank called. The man on the line sounded professional in that neutral, careful way. He explained that there had been a report. Potential fraud involving shared funds and unauthorized restrictions. He asked if I could clarify my recent actions. I remember standing in the kitchen while he spoke, my son in the next room watching something quietly. The house felt steady, no urgency, no pressure. "Yes," I said, "I can clarify." He asked a few more questions. Ownership, access, authorization. I answered each one without adding anything extra. Dates, names, account permissions. Everything was documented, everything traceable. There was a pause on his end, papers shifting, maybe a screen updating. "So just to confirm," he said, "you're the primary account holder on the shared card, and the vacation fund withdrawals were within your authorized access?" "Yes." "And the restrictions you placed, those were also within your rights as account holder?" "Yes." Another pause, shorter this time. "Understood," he said. "In that case, there's no fraud here. This appears to be an internal dispute." I nodded, even though he couldn't see it. That's what I thought. The call ended without tension. No escalation, no warning. Just a quiet closing of a file. After that, the messages stopped for a while. Not completely, but enough to notice the gap. When they did return, they were different. Less certain, less demanding. There were attempts to reframe things. Suggestions that maybe there had been a misunderstanding, that the situation had gotten out of hand. Still, no one mentioned the birthdays. I didn't push for it. A few weeks later, my son turned 9. We didn't plan anything big. He picked what he wanted for dinner. We baked a cake together, uneven and slightly burnt on one side. He laughed when we cut into it anyway. At one point, he asked if anyone else was coming. I said no, just us. He thought about it for a second, then nodded. Okay. There was no disappointment in his voice this time. Just acceptance, maybe even relief. That stayed with me longer than anything else. Later that night, after he'd gone to bed, I sat in the quiet and realized something I hadn't let myself say before. It wasn't that they had missed 4 birthdays. It was that they had never really planned to be there, and I had spent years leaving the door open, waiting for them to walk through it. Now it was closed, not slammed, not locked in anger, just closed. The next morning, I deleted the group chat. No announcement, no explanation, just less noise. Nothing was repaired after that. No apologies came, not in any real sense. The distance settled into something permanent, though no one named it that way. But the next year, when my son's birthday came around, I didn't check my phone once. And that felt like enough.